Mr. President, some of us have been speaking out for more than a year about the terrorist attack of September 11, 2012, which took the lives of 4 American public servants in Benghazi, Libya, including U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens. We've spoken out because of the many questions that still remain unanswered, and to this day, we've spoken out and will continue to speak out despite efforts of partisans and proxies of the administration to sweep all of this under the rug. The latest snow job came in December from the New York Times, that ever-reliable surrogate of the Obama administration, which published a long report challenging some key facts about the Benghazi attack. But as Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan used to say, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but not to their own facts, and the facts are stubborn things. In reality, what the Times report does is propagate myths. Let's review some of the facts. The Times claims the following, and I quote, "Months of investigation centered on extensive interviews with Libyans in Benghazi who had direct knowledge of the attack there and its context turned up no evidence that al-Qaeda or other international terrorist groups had any role in the assault." The Times goes on to claim, quote, "Benghazi was not infiltrated by al-Qaeda." Here are the facts. Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups were present in Benghazi, and they were involved in the attack of September 11, 2012. The New York Times itself reported on October 29, 2012, and I quote, "American officials said the attack included participants from Ansar al-Sharia, al-Qaeda, and the Islamic Maghreb, and the Mohammed Jamal Network, a militant group in Egypt. All of these groups are affiliated with al-Qaeda." The New York Times claims, quote, "Republican arguments appear to conflate purely local extremist organizations like Ansar al-Sharia with al-Qaeda's international terrorist network." Again, here are the facts. In an interview yesterday with CNN, the distinguished chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, a senator from California, acknowledged correctly that Ansar al-Sharia, which played a major role in the attack, is linked to al-Qaeda. The chairman was drawing on the work of our Intelligence Committee, which yesterday released its report on the Benghazi attack and its aftermath. In that report, you will find numerous references by the intelligence community before the attack that make clear the nature of the al-Qaeda threat in Benghazi. The claims that al-Qaeda had not infiltrated Benghazi rest on the same rhetorical sleight of hand that holds that while groups may align themselves with al-Qaeda, may seek and receive direction from al-Qaeda, may share similar terrorist goals as al-Qaeda, and may even call themselves part of al-Qaeda, but if they are not sitting along the Pakistan-Afghan border, or not part of so-called core al-Qaeda or al-Qaeda senior leadership, then somehow they are not al-Qaeda. This is the same bizarre language and logic that may have led then Ambassador to the UN Susan Rice to claim just days after the attack that, quote, "We've decimated al-Qaeda." This despite the fact that al-Qaeda-affiliated groups are proliferating and gaining traction all across the Middle East and North Africa, including in Benghazi. The fact is, the attack against our diplomatic facility in Benghazi on September 11th was carried out in part by al-Qaeda-affiliated terrorists who had established a safe haven in parts of eastern Libya. As the Senate Intelligence Committee report finds, the Intelligence Committee provided ample strategic warning about the negative security trends in Benghazi and the likelihood that they would further deteriorate. This was the opposite of an intelligence failure. This was clear as day. And despite these clear warning signs, the State Department was unprepared. Our diplomatic facility in Benghazi was insecure and had already been attacked multiple times. Our military is not postured and ready to respond to contingencies in a part of Libya where attacks against Westerners and Western interests had already occurred, and where the threat of more attacks was growing. The false narrative that the New York Times is furthering just so happens to align with the Obama administration's account of events. But again, facts are stubborn things, and the Senate Intelligence Committee report clearly supports the conclusion that the administration knew or should have known of the terrorist threat in Benghazi during the relevant period and should have prepositioned assets or made other preparations to better protect our people serving there. The administration and its allies will continue trying to sweep Benghazi under the rug, including the fact that we have still not received testimony and the presence of the individuals who were present and moved to Germany the day following the attack on the embassy and the deaths of 4 Americans. Contrary to the President's repeated claim that the tide of war is receding, and contrary to his administration's talking point that al-Qaeda has been decimated, the reality is that al-Qaeda-affiliated groups are emboldened now from Central Asia to the Middle East and North Africa, all the way to West African countries like Nigeria and Mali. Indeed, nothing brings this home more tragically than watching the black flags of al-Qaeda hoisted over the Iraqi city of Fallujah. 95 brave soldiers and Americans died in Fallujah. 600 were wounded. And today, we see the black flags of al-Qaeda hoisted over the city of Fallujah. The problem's getting worse, and that is in large part due to this administration's disengagement from these regions. Look at Libya today, a country that we and our NATO allies intervened to save from the wrath of an anti-American tyrant is now characterized by chaos and lawlessness in ungoverned spaces that are exploited by those who seek to do harm to our nation and our interests. According to the Senate Intelligence Committee's report, 15 Libyans who cooperated with our investigation into the Benghazi attack have been murdered. The administration can blame the Libyans for these problems just as they claim the Iraqis for Iraq's problems, but they can't escape their share of the blame for failing to support these people who want and need our help to secure their countries. That's why Chris Stevens was in Benghazi. That's why he risked and ultimately gave his life, because he believed that it is in our interest to lead events in the world, to support our friends and those who wish to be our friends in their effort to build stable, successful societies with effective democratic governments. The greatest way we can honor his sacrifice and those of his colleagues is by recommitting ourselves to their mission, for unless America actively supports those in the broader Middle East who wish to replace despair and extremism with hope and freedom, I fear the tide of war will eventually hit us again.